Do you want to say hi to everybody on the other side? Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Analisa, and I am here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the November 2023 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Virgo for sun and rising placements. My dogs are feeling very needy right now because I've been recording all day and he's wanting me to go to bed, but I really want to stay highly caffeinated on Halloween and get all these videos for November done for you guys. I'm only halfway done after I record this one. So I don't know. We'll see if I can continue after this. Usually I do 6 and then 6. I'm getting Brucey kisses, which means he's like, let's go to bed, Mom. All right, Virgo, we are in Scorpio season. It is Halloween today. We are here to talk about November. Let's get into it. So we have a stellium in Scorpio starting out November. So we've got the Sun, Mars, Mercury, and Ceres all in that fixed water sign. And the area that it's hitting for the Virgo horoscope is the area that has to do with communication and how we perceive things, how we store information, how we learn information, and how we communicate information, but also our own thoughts and ideas and all of that kind of stuff. And Scorpio, unfortunately, is not a easy sign when it comes to communication. So when your ruler Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio, it's intense. And not necessarily in a bad way. I mean, Scorpio energy is really great for personal empowerment and also asserting your needs, asserting yourself, and asserting, if you've been in a state of, okay, let me backtrack. I'm highly caffeinated. I've been talking for hours doing all these videos. So let me gather my thoughts. Virgo is the mutable earth sign, and mutable energy is adaptable. So a lot of mutable signs are good at adapting to whatever the situation calls for, which often sometimes creates a martyr dynamic that Virgo and Pisces tend to be known for, the martyr victim kind of dynamic. And Virgo rules the energy that has to do with being of servitude. The house that it rules, the 6th house, is the house that rules hospice. And so it's not uncommon for Virgos to often put themselves into situations where they are a martyr or feel some sort of martyrdom or victimization in a certain situation. The other thing is Scorpio has a tendency to feel easily victimized. And so being a Virgo dominant person, whether it's your sun or rising, with this Scorpio energy, martyr victim dynamics are very highlighted for you during this time. So with that, this might have been a time over the end of October where we entered Scorpio season and we've had some of this Mars Mercury scorpionic energy already in the flow, and entering November where we're reflecting a lot on that story. Am I a victim? Am I a martyr? Am I actually those things, or is that a story that I'm telling myself, or are those situations that I've manifested or chosen in life where I'm over that story and it's time to change the dynamic? I think that all things can be true. I don't think that there's a problem with identifying as a victim if you actually are one, and recognizing that and knowing when to heal and work on things is really important. Knowing how to leave a situation if it's abusive or toxic and not staying in a martyr or victim dynamic is also important. And one of the things that Scorpio, like Mars in Scorpio, Sun in Scorpio, Ceres and Mercury in Scorpio energy in that 3rd house can do for you is help you overcome some of these stories. But it also can lend itself towards perpetuating that story if you're not actually if you're not being an active participant of your life and trying to actively change the dynamics. Then sometimes the shadow qualities of these signs can come out where we're just reactive, destructive, angry, and we're not actually creating solutions. We're just in a state of destruction with our language, our words, or how we're operating. And so that's kind of a fine line, because sometimes we need to get angry, we need to advocate for ourselves, we need to be destructive. I think sometimes we need to burn it all down in order to rebuild. And I'm saying this figuratively. I don't mean like to actually go burn a building down or something down or be violent. I just mean that, metaphorically, sometimes we need to let go and change everything and, walk away from situations as a form of personal empowerment to get out of a victim dynamic, martyrdom dynamic. because sometimes we don't realize that we also have that power in certain situations. If you don't have that power, and if you are currently in a state where you are in an abusive situation that you are having a hard time leaving, go to thesobercurator.com. There are a lot of resources on that website for different ways to get help. If you are in a situation with your own, with a relationship or alcoholism, addiction, or family members that are toxic, like there's a lot of resources on that for how to get help out of those situations. I'm not an expert in any of that stuff, so I'm not going to speak to it, but there's a lot of signatures in the Virgo horoscope that lend itself towards reflecting on those dynamics. The communication energy with Scorpio, like I said, it can be very reactive, and sometimes there, like I said, there can be warranted, where Virgo, being mutable and being adaptable and go with the flow, sometimes ends up in a place where you feel like you're taken advantage of or bulldozed, and maybe it is time for you to advocate for yourself and say, no, I'm not taking this anymore, I'm not doing this. And setting boundaries, like maybe that's something that you need to do in order to feel like you're not a martyr, or you're respected, or not in a negative dynamic. On the flip side, let's say that you are in a situation where you've been poor at setting boundaries, and now you're just getting reactive at people who don't deserve it. That's also something that could be possible. And, it's on you to set boundaries for what you can and can't handle. You can't get mad at people if you didn't set good boundaries, for them not knowing that you have that boundary. And so that's also something that could be coming up for you, where you're acknowledging and learning, oh, this is a boundary that I should have set, that I need to learn how to advocate for myself and talk about this. And I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I'm definitely not trying to victim blame or say that you are, like, if people are crossing your boundaries, that's somehow your fault, because sometimes we set boundaries and people don't listen, and then we're mad and we need to advocate for ourselves. But there's also, like, it's common with Virgo dominant people to not set a boundary and to take on more than they can handle, and then to be burnout and exhausted and upset at other people, but then not acknowledging the fact that they agreed to take that on and didn't set the boundary. So those two things can be true, right? Where it's not like you deserve to have your boundaries crossed, but if you're not actively advocating and communicating your boundaries, other people aren't going to know not to cross them. So that might be something that you're working towards or on during the beginning of Scorpio season. And managing, how you express yourself in anger, that could be a theme too. And if you're not somebody that allows yourself to express anger and you suppress it, that could also be something that you're working through. How can you find healthy ways to express yourself instead of suppressing things? That's also a theme. One of the things that we've had happening in your sign of Virgo for some time now is Venus has been passing through Virgo. And so the area that this has been hitting is the area that rules your identity and your autonomy and your personal relationship to yourself. And so Venus has been here, and she's going to be finishing up her time here for the first week of November. And then on the 8th, she's going to be moving into Libra and actually entering the area of the chart that has to do with finances. And this is great for finances when Venus is here, because she brings more opportunity to have financial security and stability into our lives. She also gives us an opportunity to work on our self-worth and our relationship to self-worth and what we feel like we're worthy of. I think I go into a big thing about self-worth in the November. No, it's the Taurus horoscope. I go into a lot about that there. But yeah, there's a lot of themes around that. And then also, this is a positive time for you to reflect on the way that you're managing your money and your finances, and kind of putting things into a place that, might, if you have certain goals financially, like this is a positive time to work on that. And so that transit's going to be happening for the rest of November. You're going to have Venus in Libra here, blessing your area of material security. Right after that, Mercury is going to leave Scorpio, which I think is positive for you. And it's going to move into the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. And the area of the chart that that's hitting for you is the area that has to do with your home and your relationship to family members. And so Mercury here might, in Sagittarius, we tend to feel like we actually want to explore more and get out of the home a lot of times. Like we want to do travel and maybe change up where we're living. So if you're a Virgo that's been feeling restless about your home life, this might be a time where you feel like you're ready to relocate or move. If you're not wanting to relocate or move, this might also just be a time where you want to make upgrades to your living space or change something about your living space, or expand your living space in some way. Mars is going to be in Scorpio until closer to the end of the month. And we also have the sun moving into Sagittarius around that same time. So the sun will move into Sagittarius on the 23rd and join that part of your chart that has to do with home and family, and, maybe going on trips or moving, or also making those changes to your home that maybe you've been wanting to make. And then when Mars enters on the 24th, you might feel more inclined to take more action. One of the things to be mindful of is that Mars here is actually not always positive. So even though we might feel very driven and passionate about the change or the things that we want to do, Mars can also bring conflict and some upheaval in this area. So if you are trying to move, it might not be a totally smooth transaction, especially since Sagittarius squares you. But it's not that you can't do it. It's not that you shouldn't do it. It's just, it might come with its bumpy hurdles, but sometimes the best things have a lot of challenges and we just have to persevere. So, follow your gut with that one, but just know that there might be some bumps in that area of your life towards the end of the month. It's also a little bumpy for you around Thanksgiving, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad necessarily. But there might be a little bit of conflict with family, or a little bit more on edge kind of energy with that. Let's get into our moon. So we have a new moon on November 13th that's happening at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So again, we go back to kind of the theme around victim martyr and how we communicate and communicating boundaries, and whether or not we need to be more, I guess we need to take responsibility more over that in our lives. And so new moons are about setting intention. So if you feel like you want to work on how you advocate for yourself, how you communicate your needs, your boundaries, what you feel impassioned about, working on personal empowerment, those types of things, this new moon on the 13th is a great time to set intentions towards that. The full moon happens on November 27th in the mutable air sign of Gemini. And so the interesting thing about this full moon is that it squares Virgo. And so there's tension. There's a lot more tension with this full moon for you. And the area that it's hitting for the chart is, where the sun is home and family that we were talking about. But where the moon is, where the full moon's going to be, is in the area of career. And full moons are all about letting go, releasing, as well as manifesting and calling things in. And so this is a powerful time to reflect on what your values and belief systems are, whether or not the work that you're doing in the world is in alignment with that, what you want to call in that's in alignment, what you want to release and let go that may no longer be in alignment with the direction that you want to move in when it comes to the work that you're doing in the world, and how that's affecting you at home. Work-life balance might also come up as a theme for you too. All right, well, I feel good about that. And I think, Virgo, while this might be a little bit of a rocky start to your month, I think at the end of the month, you're going to see things a lot more clearly in regards to what you need and what you don't want in your life, and how you can create more of a space for things that you feel empowered doing versus the martyr victim kind of story that Virgo sometimes has a tendency to fall into. It starts with boundaries, and Scorpio energy is really good at giving people the middle finger. And I'm not saying that you have to set boundaries with a middle finger, but you might need to learn how to be less people pleasing and less of servitude, and a little bit more self-preserving, in order to continue to show up and be the giving person you are and have a smile on your face instead of feeling depleted and burnt out. So that seems to be a theme for Virgo for the month of November. And, maybe a change of scenery with some of that Sagittarius energy is going to be well deserved for you to get out of the mundane a little bit. All right. If you liked this video, hit the like, subscribe, let me know in the comments how this resonated for you. You can find me at theladyofleosure.com and thesobercurator.com. I post these videos every month, and I will see you in December. Good luck.